we're going to learn how to make this scene exactly. I say exactly because I'm recording this after the fact. And so this is kind of a neat little play blast that I did. And I'll show you exactly how to set up the scene for 2017, and I'll even show you where to get the file. You can get it off my my server and play with this yourself if you don't understand something. So anyway, looks pretty nice. All that white stuff there too is foam. This is not just the fact of the velocities being shown and mapped out as white. There's actually foam in there. So I'll show you how to do this. It'll take about 50 minutes to get through the whole tutorial, and this is for beginners. If you are totally new to Maya, you might want to take a little bit of training first, but I just give it a shot because everything I'm doing here, there's nothing hard. Making this stuff is kind of a tutorial in and of itself, and so if you're new to Maya like I was, this would be a great thing to do. If there's something that confuses you, some basic tutorials just on Maya might help. But I think it's a pretty neat simulation that we're going to do here, and we'll go from there. Okay, I just downloaded Maya 2017 and wanted to see how to make a little beach scene. So I'm just going to get to the particle part of this and show how that works. Rendering, I'm not so good at yet, but you'll be able to tell that I'm very new to Maya here as I work. So anyway, I'm going to start out with a simple cube, and I'm going to go to the channel box layer editor and just hit this polycube one here, and I'm going to give this a width of, let's just say 40. In the height, I'll just leave it as 1, and then the depth, I'm going to make that, let's do that 40 or even 50. Let's see here. Okay, so that'll work well. I want to get more water in it this time, so I want to make it a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to do, well, I don't need any subdivisions here. So what I'm going to do then is add some sides to this, and this is very simple how you do this here. So I did 40 by 50, right? So I'm going to go over to the Move tool. Okay, so I'm going to click on the input here too. Let's see, so I'm going to make this, let's see, width, is that going to be this way? Okay, so if I'm going to do that, I'm going to make the height here 5. And so we'll do that on the back end here. And then I'm going to make another cube. And you know what I should do is just undo that and just duplicate that cube. So this cube's going to be our base, our bottom. This will be our, we'll call it the back. And then I'm just going to duplicate that. So edit, duplicate, and pull this way, and I'm just going to rotate this 90 degrees. I'm going to drag it over here, and let's see here. None of this needs to be exact. I just want to make sure there's overlap in these objects here. Okay, let's just shrink this down to what it should be. I made that too long there. So again, I'm just roughing this in here because none of this is that important. So I'm going to call this the call it the right, and then I'm going to copy that, or duplicate it, I should say, and we'll call this the left. Okay, so as long as it's all covered there, that is just fine. So we'll make this the left. And what I want to do here is I've got to make this angled. So I'm just going to rotate this, and I'm going to rotate it like that. It's kind of nice and deep. Okay, that'll work just fine. And I'm going to just shift this down back a little bit, just to make sure it's totally encased. I also want to make sure there's no openings, no gaps. See, so there's no water going to get through there. There's no water. There isn't any water that's going to get through that spot. And here, I might just sink this whole thing down just a little more. Okay. So let's do that. We'll just start with that. And so now what I'm going to, so those are all going to be colliders. I'm going to have 4 different colliders. And what I need to do now is add another cube. And then this is going to be our water. So I'm going to bring this up, and so go over again to the inputs. I want to be channel box layer editor, inputs polycube, and let's see, I think 40 is what I did before, but I want it just a little bigger than that, so 41. Okay, and I want it to actually extend into the edges here. Now, whenever there's a collider, if you put any water in there, Bifrost will just eliminate it. So there's no harm in going into that a little bit. The height, I'm going to make that like 3-ish. And then the depth, I'm going to make, I think like 30. Let's see if 30 will be enough. No, I'll make just a little bit bigger than that. 35. So let's just bring this back. Again, I want it to go into that, but I don't want it sticking out. So I'm going to do that. Let's drop it down. Let's just see what we're dealing with here. Okay, now I don't want this coming out the bottom either, so I just... Okay, so I think that's going to be okay. It's coming out there. What I'm going to do is then... let me show you what I'm doing here, just so you can see it better. I'm just going to make a new material here, so that I can make that blue. So I'm just going to open the hypershader. I'm just going to click and make a new Lambert. So that's highlighted now. I'm just going to make that a blue. Okay, and then I'm just going to left or middle mouse click and drag and do that. So now it's blue. Okay, so I'm just making it that way so we can see what's going on here, because you see all the water that's coming out at the bottom. Well, I don't want that. That's all going to drop down with gravity. So what I can do is real easily just highlight my water. See, it's even sticking out of the edge here, maybe a little bit. Yeah, there it is for sure. So let's make that a little less wide. And I can just use the scale tool for this. And I just want to make sure it's also butted up all the way against the edges. See, if there's any gap in there, then when the simulation starts, you'll see the water splashing to fill in that area. Now, not that it matters here because our waves are going to generate pretty quickly. Now, what I want to do is get rid of the bottom. So all I need to do, and by the way, this too is really tight up against that, so you don't get any water settling as we start running our simulation. And this is going way too deep in there. I didn't need this nearly that long. So let's see if I can just bump it up a little bit. And we'll try that. I just don't want our waves to splash out too much. So how you get rid of the edges in here, you can just go into modeling tools, toolkit. And if you don't see that, just make sure that this is highlighted. And so it'll take you to the modeling toolkit. Yeah. So modeling tools, and what I'm going to do is go into this mode. Now I have my, and I'm going to call this water emitter. And so I have that highlighted, and I'm going to go into the point selection mode there. And with that, I just want to grab this point and this point. So I'm going to go from the side here, and I know approximately where those are, so let's just grab them. I'm only going to end up grabbing those two, and we'll just go into this mode right here, and now we can see it this way, and you can tell I only have the bottom two selected. I'm just going to grab and drag them up so that they're within my the actual land. Okay, so again, what's going to, and you see a little problem here too, is that when this starts here again, this is there's a gap here. So I actually want to move my water down a little bit so that that goes into that geometry here. Now, what's going to happen if I go to a perfect side view here, go into wireframe mode. What I want is I want my water, I could try to eyeball it so it got right to the bottom of our ocean here, but if I put it below, then any particles that get created in here will just disappear once these other objects are colliders. And so that's the way it's going to work. And so this too will all get destroyed, or all the particles in here will get destroyed. Just the ones above will remain. So this is the water I'm going to be working with here. In fact, I am going to raise that up just a touch. Oh, did I get that? Let's just raise those up just a touch. And there we go. So I want that to end right there so our beach is nice and level. And there we go. I'm going to hit the space bar, go back into this view, and while I'm here, I'm going to hit the space bar again, and so now I'm in my perspective view. Oops. Okay, so that's it for that. So that's going to be our water, and you'll notice too that I brought the water into the walls here a little bit on both sides. Okay, that way there's just no sloshing around of the water, and that's what I'm going to do for this very second. Now I'm going to go back into regular solid mode here. And before I actually make the water, I might as well get out of this selection mode. I'm going to go back to the cube mode here, so I can now select actual geometry like that. And what I'm going to do real quick is just make the Bifrost Ocean, whatever this thing stands for. So I'm going to click, I'm going to make a grid first of all, so let's make a grid. And that name will change anyway in a second here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise it up so I can see it. Okay, very, very tiny. So let's go over to the channel box layer editor, click on the input here, and I'm going to give this a width of, let's just do 42. I think that's, didn't I make this 40? Yeah, so it'll cover the edges a little bit, and then we'll make the height, let's do about 40 as well. Okay, it's a little bigger than I need it. Let's drag it over here. That'll be just fine. I'll make it a little less. Okay, and then let's give it a lot more resolution, so 100, 100, and that'll be plenty of resolution to use. So this is going to drive the simulation. So now that I've got that, it's called P-Plane 1. Don't worry about changing it right now, because once we go to the boss, now with that selected, okay, so if it's not selected, make sure it's selected, go to boss, and if you don't see that, make sure you're in FX, okay? If you're in a different one, you won't see it. So boss editor, and from here, just click this once, and then click this once. And now you got this boss spectral wave here. Now, this is where I'm a little new to this, so just hang in there. Now, for some reason, it doesn't work on frame 1. It works on frame 2 and all the other frames. So to get it, just make sure you're on frame 1 and then hit this button, set start frame for all. So now you still have to scrub it once, but now when you go back to frame 1, it'll be there. Now you can tell that this is now going the wrong direction. So what I'm going to do is just change the direction here, and this is where I'm a little confused with the. So I want to actually be in the attribute editor here. So as I click on these, you see the attribute editor changes. Okay, so I'm in the spectral waves here. I think I actually want to be in the wave solver because this will give me the direction. Guess not. Must be the other one. There's a direction attribute here, so just gotta find it. Wind direction right there in degrees. So I'm just gonna shift this. I think 90 is the one is that the one I wanted? Nope, see, that's going away, so I want to be 270. So that should be going towards, there we go. So now it's going towards my beach, and that looks good. So I'm just going to leave it like that. There's lots of parameters you can play with, and believe it or not, I haven't played with this. I was so anxious just to see if I could get some particles moving. I don't really care how specific this is. So I'm good with that. I'm just going to close that down. You get to it again just by clicking this and that. It's not hard to find. And there's all kinds of wave influences you can use for boats. Haven't even gotten into that yet. So now that I have what is going to be, and by the way, see how it's the plane is originally there still, but the output is really what I'm going to use to drive. Okay, so the original plane, I'm not going to be using it all. In fact, it's probably still there. Yeah, it's like it duplicates it and then makes this Bifrost Ocean spectrum thingamajigger. So anyway, I'm just going to grab that and drag it down. I just like it to be kind of sitting in the water, and that looks great. In fact, I don't want it to be up here. I don't want it to influence there so much. I want it to be more back here, so that the stuff that comes ashore is just more remainder of the acceleration effect. So what they did in Bifrost here in the 2017, what Maya did is it looks like they changed the name of things. So they used to call it an accelerator, you now are going to have that selected. Well, you got to make a water. You got to make the water first. I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. So let's go and select the water emitter. Okay, it's this blue object, the triangular object we worked on before. And in fact, let me hide this so that you can see this step by step. So I've not made any water yet. I know this looks blue, but it is not water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my water emitter, and the only purpose of this is to create my Bifrost fluid. After that, I'm going to hide it. So let me just save this first. Save scene as. You can tell how new I am because I don't even use project files. I'm just playing around with this stuff. YouTube beach. And there's my old ones new here, so I'll do my new here, and I'll just do start. So this is how new I am to Maya. And with the water emitter selected here, so, and by the way, if you don't have this outliner showing up, you just get to it from Windows, Outliner. That's how you get it. And that's how you can easily select these objects, which is really nice. And then you can dock it over here to the left if you want. It's a very handy place to have it. This is show or hide outliner. Okay, so you can get it that way too. So if if I didn't want this here, I could hide it and then just get it this way. That just in Maya 2016, it just showed up by default a different way. So I went and got it this way and then dragged it in there. So don't let that confuse you. Anyway, so I'm going to go to the water emitter. I'm going to go to Bifrost. I'm going to create liquid. Okay, so once I click this, all these nodes show up here. And if I actually hide my water emitter, I don't literally need to see that little triangular piece of geometry anymore. I'm going to hide it, and you'll see there's no water. And that's because I'm on a frame 107. So Bifrost updates whenever you get to 1. So I'm going to hit, you'll be hitting this button all the time. And once I click that, Bifrost should put some water in there. There we go. Now, that's not a lot of points, but that's plenty to do our testing with, and then we can bump up the resolution. Now, another nice thing too, when you're dealing with Bifrost, a couple things. First, when you go into it, you want to make sure that you go into Bifrost and Bifrost options. So Bifrost options, you want to enable background processing. When I downloaded it, this was not enabled by default. The scratch cache, I think was enabled, but I don't remember it. Anyway, this needs to be checked, this needs to be checked, and this needs to be checked. And then you have to select a location. Now, Bifrost defaulted to I think my user folder of in some way. I forget where I put it. But anyway, I just chose this temporary cache. It doesn't matter. It's just somewhere on your hard drive. You got to select a location for it to store this stuff to. So what it'll do is it'll use the 6 GB of RAM to create our frames, and then once that's filled up, it'll default to the location here. Now, when it's playing back, whatever's in the RAM will obviously play back faster than when it's in the disk. But this is what you got to have set. You hit apply and close, and if this doesn't update, again, we'll just hit the back, and then it should update. And if it doesn't, just hit play for a second, and you can hit back. Come on, what's going on here? Anyway, I'm just gonna see that's already in the cache. I'm gonna go to Bifrost clear cache. So flush scratch disk. Now it shows up. Okay. So sometimes it's a little finicky. And that is that part of it. And then the other thing to notice too is this little, see how it turns green down here? Make sure you have the liquid selected. If I have anything else selected, you'll see that green down there disappears. But when I go to the liquid, it's there. The other thing that's nice to have is your task manager showing just some basic stuff. Now, the way I came up with that 6 GB figure there, right there to use, is by looking at this. I'm like, okay, Maya's using 5 gig. I've got 12 gig there, so let's give it 6 gig about to use, and that gives me an extra gig. So that's kind of how you can determine it. And when I start simulating here, you'll see the CPU jump, and then the memory slowly start to bump up. But it won't go over that because of those limits I put in there in the Bifrost options. So those are some of the things you just are kind of nice to know. And so let's we'll simulate this right now. Notice I have not put the boss output in there yet, so this should just settle. And the only other thing I'd like to do is put a kill plane in there, but let's just run this just for a second, just see if our water settles and doesn't leak through it all. So I'm going to hit play right here, and you'll see when I hit play, the Bifrost here is now working. Okay, and I only need a few frames here, so I'm going to stop that. Now here's what it's processing, and as this gets closer to 59 here, you'll see this approaching 100%. And so Bifrost has calculated these 16 frames, and it'll eventually get to 59. Now I can hit play again, and this will continue on. I'll just show you. Okay, so now it's sent more to Bifrost. It has yet to be processed, but at least more is being sent to it. And so this is all now my liquid, and you'll see that it falls right through. So I forgot to make these items here I forgot to make them colliders. But this actually is a good point, is that now here all the liquid's falling through, so our calculations are just taking up this greened in area of space. But I'm going to stop this. So I stop Bifrost right down here. Okay, and I'm going to rewind. Now usually that erases the cache. It doesn't seem to be doing it here. Not a big deal. But if that annoys you, just go to Bifrost flush scratch cache. And then it just restarts. So what I got to do is I got to make all this bottom, back, right, left. I got to make those colliders. So I think you have to do these individually. Maybe you can do them as one, but I'm going to select. With the liquid selected, I'm going to hold down the control button and click the bottom. So now both of those are selected, and it doesn't matter the order. I'm going to go up to Bifrost. I'm going to hit collider. Now I'm going to do it. You'll notice that it made right here is the collider property 1. So I'm going to do it now for the back, and again control click the liquid, go up and hit Bifrost collider. Okay, I'm going to go to the right and the liquid, Bifrost collider, and then the left, Bifrost liquid, Bifrost collider. So I just have to make sure all those are colliding. And now let's run, and we'll see if our container holds water. Okay, now I'm going to let this go to frame 60, and you'll see you don't see any values. It's because I don't have my liquid selected. So if you click off of anything else, it won't show you that. You have to have the liquid selected for the timeline here to show that up. So let's just see here if it's now holding liquid. Okay, so now we're holding liquid. And you can still scroll and scrub, and you don't see any water coming through at all. If you did, this green box, as the water fell, the green box would get bigger and bigger. Okay? So that's what's going on there. And so our container now holds the liquid. So that's good news. Now I'm expecting some splashes to come off the edge. So what I'm going to do is stop this Bifrost simulation. So I'm going to hit the stop button down here. And go back to frame 1. I'm not going to worry about that cache. And so let's go in and add in the kill plane here. And you do that very simply. Just make sure the liquid is selected. That's usually the first thing you got to do whenever you're adding or removing something from the liquid. So you highlight the liquid, you go to Bifrost, you add a kill plane. Now you probably can't even see the kill plane because it's very small and it's right at the origin. So I'm just going to lower this down. Now here's another good point. You see how chuggy it's moving? That's because it's trying to deal with the simulation all at the same time. Now I just want to make sure that this plane, you can kind of see it there. Now you can expand that if you want, but it doesn't matter because that goes out in all directions. And any particle that goes through it, whether it's below one way or the other, gets destroyed. So any particles above it are fine, any particles below it, they're fine too. The particles literally have to cross that plane in order to be destroyed. It's a little, I think I can get it a little higher, just so if any particles came off, they would be destroyed a little sooner. Now you see how slow that's moving? If that annoys you, just go to the liquid and just make sure you're in the Bifrost liquid container and just hit this button, and that turns off all the simulation. So now watch, I can move that plane up and down much faster. Okay, and that's all there is to it. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to move the kill plane up and down. Okay, so you can see how small it is. It's just a small little rectangle, but that bothers you, you can make it bigger. Like I said, it doesn't matter. So if you like it big like that, then so be it. I personally don't want to see it and don't care about it, other than that I know it's there. But anyway, I can manipulate this much faster this way, and I just want to make sure none of my liquid, so this goes out to here. So I should be okay. So now I'm going to go back to my liquid here and then re-enable the simulation. And now I got my water back. So now the kill plane there, I know that's going to work, so I'm not worried about that. Let's just go in and now deal with our water, not the emitter, but the boss output. So I'm going to click on that, and I don't even need to unhide it. I don't even need to worry about that. Now, by the way, too, look, this all works really smoothly out here, and because there's no simulation to deal with. You have to literally hit this to go back to frame 1 and then hit play in order to start simulating. Or I can drag it back to frame 1 and then hit play. But you have to hit play to start simulating, so that's kind of good to know. Otherwise, you can still play with this. And let's see, did I have that? I'm going to go back to frame 1 so I can see my liquid. Okay, so it's embedded in my liquid. Not sure how important that is. And with that selected and with my liquid selected, okay, so both of those are selected, I'm going to go up to Bifrost, and I'm going to make this a motion field. So this is what they've now changed it to. When Maya puts out a new version, it seems to be my short-lived impression here that they really changed things. And that's okay. They're making things much better. So it bugs me when software tries to keep with the old stuff going along. And it's like, no, just do what you need to do. So here's motion field. So I'm going to click that. And so it's going to make my boss output now a motion field. And so here's the parameters down here. Now, when you make these motion fields, it looks like it automatically gives this direction magnitude. And so if I ran this right now, all these particles would go over to the right, I believe. And it would look really weird. So I just want to turn the direction magnitude down to 0. And I just want to deal with, how did I do that? I think this is it. I think that's it. I think I'm ready to go. Oh, and inherit velocity. Yeah. So turn that up to some value. I just try 3 for now. So that means it's going to inherit the particles are going to inherit the velocity of the movement here. So let's just try that, and I'm going to go back to my liquid here, and I'm just going to hit run real quick or simulate, and just see if we get any motion of our particles at all. So I'm just going to stop it here at 50, and let's just see if our particles are moving at all. And it looks like they might be. It's hard to tell. I'm going to hide, so I'm going to click that and just hit H on my keyboard to hide it. And I can hit H again to bring it back. So I'm going to go back to my liquid here. It looks like I'm getting some influence there. See this? See, it looks like this is settling here a little bit. It's not. What I noticed before in the first simulation, I actually noticed that the water dragged back, and that would make sense. If you're starting to pull water up here through waves, it's going to come back like that. That you see that same principle in a tsunami. Yeah, but that's definitely starting to affect it. Now, one thing here, I'm gonna hit play again because I want this to render I want to get some more frames here from the Bifrost, because this is already definitely influencing this. Look how simple I've already set that up. Now, while this is going, it doesn't really look like much is happening, but that's because we can't really see velocity indicators that well. So with my liquid selected, you can go into Bifrost liquid. Is it the shape? Yeah. So go into the shape. Now what you might see is something like this. And so what we want to do is we want to do particle display, and obviously you can change the point size of these particles. That's not my point here. I want to make sure that the color channel, I want to do velocity, and then I want to open this up here. So if this isn't pointing down like that is there, just click it and you'll see this. Now all you have to do here is change this to a lower number. So just pick like 5. Okay, so now we start seeing some extra. I'm going to go down to 3. Oops. Hit enter. So now we can see the velocity indicators a little bit more here. So as this starts to churn along here, we're going to see some more indication. Now this is not foam. This is just showing more velocity. So let me just kick out a few more frames here. And again, Bifrost just continues processing that. Isn't that nice how you can just do that? It's just so convenient. And so we see some of the areas with the higher velocity. Now this is where the foam would come out. And you can see we're getting some really nice splashes there. And then the foam is coming up. Oop, I got off my frame there. See if those aren't done, there's no way I can show them to you yet, right? So anyway, look at that. Look how nice and simple that is to set up. Now this is a very low particle count yet, and in our ocean could be a little thicker maybe, but that is really cool. And it's coming up along our beach. Now, I don't have any texturing here or anything like that, or any little bumps or rocks like that, but that shouldn't be that hard to put on there. So that's that. So that's how you can do this. Now I'm going to let this play out a little bit, and I'll just do a play blast of this quick so you can see what this looks like. And it's going to look cool because the velocity, the higher velocity things look like they have foam on them. And again, they do not, but it's going to look like they do. So let me just pause here and I'll make that play blast. By the way, how you do the play blast, you just right click anywhere over the timeline here. So I'm going to right click and you hit play blast right here, just to set up your initial parameters. And I'm just going to go with a QuickTime format here, MPEG-4. I'm going to go to 100 quality, and the display size I'm going to do from the window, but it's going to cut it in half. So that'll be plenty for us, and it doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to hit play blast here. And the only trick to this is that you've got to have all this rendered out. I'm not sure, I shouldn't say rendered. It's got to all be calculated. If you haven't simulated this, there's no way it's going to do a play blast of it. In fact, it will, but you won't see any water. All you'll see is the geometry that we put in there, but you won't see any water. So make sure this is all simulated with the Bifrost to do your thing. And in fact, I'm gonna finish doing the rest of this here, so that the play blast does the entire length of this here. So I'm gonna make this actually 200, and I'm gonna do all this. Now, this is actually kind of neat to see. So it's the playhead was back here, and it's going through the disc and actually playing back those frames. And once it gets up here, it'll actually start simulating again. I'm just gonna stop this and just put the cursor up here, and now let it go through and just do the rest of those. So you see how flexible this is? It just allows you to save time. You can add more frames in there, and it'll calculate without losing your previous ones. It's just awesome. So I'm going to pause this here before I hit that play blast button. Okay, so this is almost done, but I wanted to point this out to you, is that it is still calculating, Bifrost is, to calculate this, but my playhead's still moving here, and it's loading frames from the disk. Well, that's a waste of time. So I'm just going to hit stop, so that my playhead is just hanging out there. And up here is memory is running through here. So here's the RAM, and back here is everything back here is going to be on my disk. This is the advantage to having the more RAM. So now that this is done, right now I can hit play blast, and it'll do everything up all the way up to frame 200. So I'm going to hit play blast here, and it's going to start calculating these frames, and that's going along very quickly. So I'm just gonna hit pause here while this does this. Okay, so the play blast just popped up here, and you'll see here, I'll just play it here, and you'll see that it makes some nice waves there. In fact, a little too intense. You'll notice that we kind of get to closer to the bottom of the ocean there. But still, that is pretty darn simple. Really, really simple to get that. Now remember, the white stuff here is not foam. So let's go see how you do foam, and it used to be really easy. I have not done it yet in this version, and I'll show you how to separate the particles too, so you can see what's foam and what's velocity here. So the way I am recording here, right? Yes. So the way you used to do it was just select the liquid, and I'm going to go back to frame 1 here. Now it'll erase everything here, and my QuickTime I just lost 2 because I don't care. So I'm going to hit the rewind button, and we'll see if it clears the cache. So, okay. It used to clear the cache. I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to go to liquid, and I'm going to go up to so I've got this highlighted. I'm going to go up to Bifrost, and I'm just going to add foam. And that's it. That's kind of all you do. So now we'll get another foam icon or node down here, and you'll see there's a lot of them. See, I could have put all my colliders into one object as well, and that would have limited some of these. But it is kind of nice having these here because it allows you to go to some of these properties fairly quickly without having to scroll through all the different ones in the liquid. So, I mean, look at all these. It's crazy how they're all there. So having these nodes over here is kind of nice to access the properties a little quicker. So here we're in the foam properties, and you basically can kind of work with the top three items here. So emission rate, the liquid speed that it has to have, that our water has to have in order to start emitting foam, or the churn level that it has to be in order to start emitting foam. So if we put both of these at 0, you'd just get a lot of foam. Everything would turn into foam. So you don't want to do that. You'll just, your memory will go away too. Which leads me to another point is when we start dealing with memory, the memory limitations on your computer are really going to dictate 1 frame or 2 frames probably of when you're simulating here. So when I first started playing with Bifrost, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get a computer that's got 128 gigabytes of RAM and stuff like that. But when you simulate this, you're going to be storing this into cache files, and you're going to be able to make some really detailed simulations, even with a computer that only has 8 gigabytes of RAM. So don't let that freak you out. I'll try to show you how to do that either in this video or another one. Anyway, let's hide that. And so our foam should be on, and without changing anything, let's just run this and see what happens. And look at all these parameters you got. Man, it's great. I like more control, but it can also be overwhelming. So let's just, without touching anything, let's just run a simulation again, and we'll see what happens. So I'm back at frame 1. I'm gonna highlight my liquid. I'm just gonna hit play and start submitting these to Bifrost again. And let's just go to like frame 100 here, and we'll just see what happens. Okay. Now, there's usually, it allows you to see the particles up here. Display Bifrost HUD. So let's just do that. And so, okay, so they now show steps, and I've learned a little bit about that, but so what you have to do is you have to be on a frame, obviously, that's been simulated to show. And so my particles here and here, see, how do you see the particles of the foam? I'm a little confused on that. Okay. So again, this looks like foam is being created out here. So let's do this. Let's go to our foam, and let's make them look different. So where do we go for that? We got to go to the foam. Oops. Let's see here. Where's my simulation? Okay, my simulation's still going. Foam properties. I want to get to the foam, the look of the foam. Okay, so this is all new here. Let me pause and just find this real quick. That's right, I just forgot that under the liquid, you just have to expand this little node right here, and you'll have your liquid and your foam. I just blanked on me for a second. So when I'm in the foam, you'll see when you're in the liquid, here it basically takes you to the liquid shape here, and you can change the remapping. So what I'm going to do, remember this is making white our vorticity. So that's all well and good. In fact, I'm going to get some more particles in here since I don't want to wait. By the way, I don't even know if I would have. Yeah, I think I did have to resimulate with the foam in there. But anyway, with Bifrost working in the background, I can still go and play with these values. So let's go down. We'll pick a frame here that looks cool. There we go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bump this up a little bit. Now, as I take this higher, it will show less vorticity in the color coding aspect. So this is now starting to look like it's foam. See? So that's actually some foam that's being Hold on a second here. So that is then where the foam is. As you can see that developing right there. Now, if you question that at all, you can always just change the color of the foam. So right here, I'm sorry, changing the color, you probably can do too, but you can just change the point size as well. And so if you really bump those up, you'll see where the foam is being generated. And that's not too bad. That's pretty cool, actually. Now, I'm going to ask for some more foam. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the foam generator here, down here. So the foam properties. And I'm just going to bump up the emission rate a little bit. Let's just take that to, we'll just see what 3000 does. And then, okay, so I either have to resimulate here. I don't have a lot of experience with foam, I have to admit. So that's right around frame 141. Let's just really crank this up a little bit and we'll see what happens. I believe I have to resimulate here. So let me just, we'll see if this makes a difference. After I resimulate here, you can kind of see where it's coming in. It's just not, I want more foam. I want to make it a little crazy. So let's, let me just do that here. So I'm going to rewind. I'm going to select the liquid just so I can see it render here. I'm just going to hit play, and then I'll pause and I'll be back here in a minute. Oops, wrong one. Okay, so the simulation just finished up here, and I'm at the frame 140, and you can tell it really didn't change that much, if at all. I mean, I'm expecting more foam everywhere. Now, if I get out here, yeah, I get some different areas of the foam, but still, it's not near as broad as I wanted. So, you know, there's something to this I'm not getting. I probably just have to, you know, maybe take this down a little bit more, the churn, and there's probably some other things I just don't understand with the foam yet. But it looks like this is totally different than the original foam that they were using. They've enhanced it significantly, they say. So there's just something I don't understand. But at least this is foam. And that's really what I wanted to get. So what I'll do is I'll do a quick play blast of this so you can see it all in motion. And I'm going to up the particle count. So just real quickly, show you how to do that. So I'm going to go to my Bifrost liquid. And what, let's see here. Yeah. So I want to go to Bifrost liquid. Here, no. Where is it? There's the foam. There, container. So I want to go to the Bifrost liquid container, which I think this would have gotten me to right here. Yeah. So as I say, these nodes are kind of handy over here. So the properties. So the master voxel size is really 0.5 is what it just opened up with. I'm going to drop this down to say 0.2. Now here's where the memory configuration gets in the way here. So I've got most of my memory locked up with the RAM here. So I'm going to flush the cache and just watch what happens here. So did you see my memory count here? So there it is. And let me just always on top for a second here. Okay. And by the way, I got to this through the Control-Alt-Delete and then Task Manager. So right there, just watch what happens when I clear out the cache. Okay, so dropped it back down again. So what I'm going to do is I've got to be careful with this master voxel size. I'm going to go back to frame 1 too, just so we can view this. So this is here. I'm going to drop this down to 0.2 because I'm pretty confident my machine will be able to handle this no problem. And watch what happens. Let's see what happens in the memory. So I hit 0.2 and I hit enter. Now Bifrost should then recalculate and give me a lot more particles. And you see it went up a little bit, but no big deal. I'm going to even go down a little bit more. Now, when I drop this down by 0.1, this is going to give me a lot more particles. Okay, so it went up to 6.2. So you see, the memory limitations just aren't there. In fact, the biggest limitation is going to be the disk space for the quality of your renders. But you can see it's taking a lot longer to calculate this. You can see Bifrost working down here. So point 1 is going to be more detailed than I want right now. I'm not actually using this to make a mesh, and I don't want to wait forever in this tutorial, but at the same time I want to see what it looks like. Okay, so there we get a lot of particles, and you know what the heck, I got the disk space. I'm just going to render out maybe a few hundred frames of this and then make a play blast, and I'll show you this. But this is the number you play with for resolution, and I could take this down to 0.05 and still be okay, but then it's going to be rendering out a lot to my disks. Now the other thing I could do too would be to compute and cache to disk. So you know, let's just do that real quick. Let me just show you how you do that, and if I can remember how to do it. So I don't have anything rendered here yet. I shouldn't use the word render. I don't have anything simulated, but I'm just going to check this here, and we'll see how we do this because I kind of forgot. Okay, so we're going to do the time slider, so it's going to go from 1 to 200. And you know, before I do that, let me actually make this. Let me actually make this 300 because I want a better picture of what's going on here. And I am going to drop this down to 0.2. I just don't want to wait that long. So we'll let that recalculate here. That should be much faster. And then, so I'm going to go to Bifrost, and I'm going to go to compute and cache to disk, and I'm going to select the options here. So the compression format, you just do this BIF, and then the simple is just fine. And so the cache directory, I'm going to do, it automatically makes it based on your scene file. So that's my scene file up here, and it does that. I was looking at the documentation, and you can have multiple different liquids, and it'll cache them to the different, it'll separate them for you into the different folders as well. I believe, maybe that's not what this was referring to, but anyway, let's just do this. And so I'm going to create this, and what it'll do is as it's computing these, it'll just store them all to disk. And what you'll see down here is this will be blue instead, I believe is what they do. So let me just here create. Now, maybe I have to do that after I simulate. Let me just see what it does here. Again, this is new to me here, and if I don't think this is going to work in all honesty. I think maybe I needed to simulate first, but nope. So it just took a minute to update, so it's going to Bifrost. Now I'm just going to real quickly go over to that file here, documents, Maya. Is that under projects and then default? Is that what that was? I forgot where it's storing it. Let me just pause here and find it. I just don't remember. Okay, so I found it. It's very easy to find actually, because you could, while Bifrost is processing in the background, I just went up here and looked. So I was just able to look here, and it did do what I was thinking here. So you'll see here this YouTube beach start. So if I actually pull that up there and then pull up the file here, I kind of shrunk this down. You can see this. Here's that path, default, cache, Bifrost, YouTube beach start. But then it actually labeled my liquid this name. So put it into a separate folder, and then here are all the files. And you're going to see here that these are actually kind of large. So if we go in here, so it's up to frame 19 that is done. It's working on frame 20 right now. You can see that these files are, 2 megabytes each, basically. For the solid, and I don't know what all this stuff is. Here's 17 megabytes for the actual liquid particles. So these are going to get pretty high, and this is where I say that your computer, more the disk space can be the limitation versus the memory. But look at my memory here. See, as this thing is cranking away here. Oh, interesting. Okay, as it's working here, I think when it's done, it'll all turn this to blue. But we're pushing the memory limits here, and as it calculates this stuff. So I don't know how this all works, but this is how you do it. And then you've got the particles at least stored in the cache. And then once that's all done, you can load that up in the liquid, I believe, and there's actually a spot for it. I don't remember how to do that offhand, but this is what you do, and hopefully my memory here is all okay. So anyway, let me just pause this here, and we'll see if everything works well when we come back. Okay, so as this is rendering here, I just want you to see my memory limitations here. Kind of like going, oh no, I saved the file. Luckily you can still save the file while it's rendering out. But you can see the disk is just going crazy, right? And the CPU is going on and off as it creates the frames and then does it. But it's holding still. Remember, I gave it a 6 GB limit, and it doesn't seem to be pushing past that, but I'm pushing the barriers here. So I'm going to continue to pause as this goes. Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes here, and as it's chugging through here, the memory's down to this limit now too. So I think what it does is it fills up memory, and then it does more of a disk write, and then clears out the memory. But you'll see the CPU is just going crazy here, and just slowly calculating these frames. And I bet you that this is pretty darn hefty. I'm just gonna see if I can do a well, my computer's just too busy. Let's just see if we can see how big this is so far. So we're already up to 3.5 gig for 85 frames. So I'd say this is where you know, I could never include these files on the internet. I can give you the baseline file we did here, and then you can render these out yourself, or calculate these out, simulate these out yourself to get these files. But a lot of files it take to make these simulations. Just a lot of data. And so again, I'm going to pause and come back again, and I'll actually pause, and we'll probably even do a play blast. And so anyway, I just don't want to waste your time here, so let me pause again. Okay, so I don't even know if this recording is going to work right, but I wanted to show just how intensive this can be on resources. Now I have a few programs down there I guess I could close, maybe free up a little bit more memory, but it's working. My disk is going crazy. And CPU's, you know, not running super intensely, but fast enough. So anyway, we're at frame 185-ish, and so I'm going to let it go to 300. But just kind of neat to show you kind of what happens during this process. I mean, I went up and had dinner and everything, so this is something I've been letting go. You can see the time obviously from the screen recording here, so it's been a while, but already at 7.71 gig for that file, so it's taking a lot of space, and by the time this is all done, it's probably going to be well over 14 gigabytes. Because remember, as this went along here, the foam started forming more. But I guess that was around frame 140, so who knows? We'll see when it's all done. Just thought you might find that interesting. Okay, so I ended up, it's now 714, 12.8 gigabytes for that folder, so a lot of data. And here's my memory count. CPU's down, disk is, you know, nothing's going on here. I don't know why the memory is so high. I thought that this would be caching all from disk now, and I thought this would turn blue when it was caching from disk. But you can see we've got a lot of data, a lot of nice foam. So I'm just going to make a quick play blast of this. I just wanted you to see what it was there. And I'm actually going to do this not at 50%. I'll do this at full scale here, since these are so easy to make once you've got the work done. And we'll go from there. So play blast here, and I'll pause it again. Okay, so the play blast just finished up. You can see here CPU dropped to 0, and close to 0, and the disk dropped to minimal too. So we'll just look at the play blast here and see what this looks like. So I'm pretty happy with that. It isn't bad at all. It took a while. You can see the time down below here. And the first few seconds aren't real valuable as it builds up, but you get the gist of what's going on there. That looks pretty nice. And all that white stuff is the foam. Boy, I just am very, very pleased with that. So I didn't change any of the other parameters. What I'll do is I'll put on my server the this file so you can play around with this. And the only thing I'll do is I'll change the liquid properties. I'll take them down a little bit so that this is master voxel size. I'll take back to 0.5. And then you can lower it based on your system. That's the only thing when sharing these files is this. And this is being built here too in 2017, 3 days after it was released. So if they, as they come up with the service packs and stuff, hopefully this will still work. And if not, you can just tell me on the YouTube channel. I'll try to recreate it or load it up or whatever. I'll try to figure something out. But anyway, I hope you found that was interesting. Now, rendering this and meshing it is a whole different topic. And I understand quite a bit about the meshing, but the rendering, now with this new Arnold renderer and everything like that, I haven't a clue. But boy, I think this turned out pretty neat. I mean, I used to see videos like this and was, I was like, how did they do that? And this just, you saw, it wasn't that hard. And I do have particles flowing off the edge here, you see that? And that would, and I didn't talk about ballistic particles or anything like that in here. There's a lot of concepts that go into understanding this water, and this would probably all be meshed, which could be kind of nice because you see the particles are quite far apart. So some of this could be ballistic particles, or this is all going to be meshed over here as it goes off the edge. But it's obviously going to go into the kill plane and die. So you just won't see those particles as they're going off the edge here. Wherever that was, yeah. These particles will all die and they won't extend the simulation to take huge volumes of voxels, which is what this purple cube here would continue going down and down and down. That's what the kill plane eliminates. It eliminates these stray little particles that we don't want to deal with. But look at that. I mean, if I put a camera right here and rendered that, I think that would look pretty tough. If I can get the colors and everything right there. So anyway, I'm going to continue my learning process, but I thought some of you could benefit just from some of the experimentation I've had. And just remember, I've been playing with Maya for a few months, and this has been my goal. So I've kind of spent all my time and effort trying to learn this wave stuff, the foam stuff, and this. So if you see some other tutorials out there that show you better things, by all means, use that. I was just trying to show people how to get a little jump start on this if this is what they're interested in doing. So thank you very much.